So if you're going to do budding, which is the fastest way to produce a fruit tree onto rootstocks, where do you get your buds? Well, you take your buds from your first year shoots. So between July 15th and the end of August, you look at these shoots here. I'm going to cut him off. Okay, now that we got the shoot cut off, every place there's a leaf coming out, there's a next year bud. And if you pull these leaves off, now you can see that bud that was under that leaf. That would be your next year's growth. Most likely, if you do budding this year, it may start to sprout, but most are typically a year later. And these will grow faster than the scion that you have planted this year on, say, a rootstock. Now what you want to do is carve underneath that and peel that bark off that has that bud attached to it. But what we'll do is we will cut the leaves off and leave in a small handle. So now here you can see I cut the leaf off and I left that handle. I will leave that handle on when I cut that bark off so it's easier to handle. And we'll plant that right inside our graft. And I cut another one off here. Again, behind those are your buds, as you can see right here. So that's what we need to start with. If we're going to do some budding, best thing to do is practice on the bench first. And remember, I cut these leaves off, and the buds that we want are underneath these leaf stems. Now ideally, we want to wait a few more weeks because you want to see the bud under here have a little darker brownish tint to it before we start this. But again, we're going to practice, and we're going to practice on a branch. We're going to call that our rootstock. So to start our practice, we'll take a first year scion here. I said the best time is mid-July to end of August. We're going to cut off a leaf here. We're going to use that for a handle. Again, our bud's underneath. Now we're going to take a sharp utility knife and we're going to go just under that. Doesn't matter if you get some wood with it. And we're going to peel that bud off. So we got our bud in there. Now we got a little piece of wood here. And you can put that in there with this wood, or you can try taking this wood out. And you just kind of move the bark a little bit. It's soft. Squeeze it. And you can peel a lot of that bark right off. So now you got your bud. The next thing you want to do is you want to take your rootstock. And you want to make a cut in your rootstock. So make a cut, about 2 inches right through the bark. At the top of that cut, make a T going right through the bark again. Rotate your stock. Now take your edge of your utility knife and you want to start lifting up that bark. You'll see that come right off that tree like that. And so once you've got that worked out, you can see right there, this is where we're going to place that bud right in there. Now that we have our T cut in our rootstock and we've worked our bark away, we want to take our bud facing up, and we got our handle from our leaf here, and we want to slide it in that cut that we just made, right up underneath that bark. Slide it right on down. You'll see how nice that fits right in there. Here's the top of our bud bark. Here's the bottom of our bark. Now it's not going to take very much, and that's closed in there. Now you plant that rootstock in the ground, and next year this is where your new tree will start. Again, go out and take your scion, first year scion, and this is mid-July through the end of August. You can do this, works great. You want to make sure the bud behind the leaf that we've cut off has got a little brown tint. Now here we're a few weeks early, but we are practicing on the bench. So practice this on the bench, and after you've done a couple, you can go right out and create your own trees, and it's not that hard to do. Then we're going to take our utility knife, and we're going to go right up underneath that bud. And we're going to cut it right off. Now we have some wood, not much, the handle of our leaf, and we got our bud underneath that. That will grow next year. If you want, just work the end here, and you'll get some of that wood to break loose, and we can peel some of that wood out. You can do it either way. You can have the wood in. You can peel some of this wood out if you want and have just the bark. I prefer pulling some of this wood out, like the core like there. The key is this bark edge right here. This is your cambium layer. And that cambium layer has to be touching the cambium layer in your rootstock where you made your T. So it must be touching right on the inside of this bark. Well, if you slide that in there, there's no way that is not going to touch. So we take our bud with our handle on it, making it nice, slide that in there, slide that down. You got the top edge right here. Now you can take your parafilm tape and you can wrap that up, leaving the bud area exposed, and you have just started your own fruit tree that is a perfect clone of the fruit that you want to eat. Here now we have our paraffin wax, and you want to wax around this bud. So if we wax around it, do not go over it, just go around it, sealing up that T-cut that you just made. Now you're ready to plant that in your orchard. So again, this is just practice. Do this a few times, you'll have it down, and you'll be able to start your own orchard, and within 3 years you'll have all the trees you want. Now that we have our bud placed into our rootstock, we got it taped here with our perfume tape, we need to plant this. So if this is our rootstock and the roots are down here, go ahead and plant that into the ground. Do not cut off your rootstock. Let your rootstock grow the first year. After the first year, then you can do that in November, or you can do it early in the spring, say March. Then you want to take and you want to cut this rootstock off right above the bud right here. Now this is all you're going to see in the garden. And you can take and put some of your tree wound, cover that up, protect that, and you just let that rootstock grow, and all your energy again will go into your new tree. So if you're starting an apple orchard and you're doing it yourself and you're generating your own rootstock or buying your rootstock, budding is the best process for starting an apple orchard. I hope this helps you in starting a few of your own apple trees or your apple orchard. If you ever got any questions, feel free to respond back to my YouTube and I will answer your questions. Good luck. Today we're going to do some bud grafting. Here it's mid-July. I've got my rootstock. I did a demonstration on doing the cleft and the whip and tongue graft on some rootstock. Most of these have done real well. I've done 26 of them. I got 3 of them that the rabbits got into and trimmed off the leaves here before I got fencing up. So I added a bud graft. I'm going to show you how to do that. Another one. This one happens to be one that's got a wealthy on it. The birds got on that and tilted it a little bit. So I'm going to do a bud graft anyways. Plus a bud graft produces a much stronger graft and will grow much faster. So to do that, I took my utility knife and I made a cut right down through here. Then I made a T-cut across the top of this on both sides. Now you take your utility knife and you just start working out on that. Bringing that bark out, both sides. You get that lifted out. Now we'll take our buds that we cut off. And here's a bud I cut off from a wealthy. I took the center wood out of there. I left the leaf on, cut it off short for a handle, and the bud is underneath that. And if you can see this bud, it has a brown tint, and that's what you want. All right, we're going to slide this bud in here. Goes in there real nice once you've made that T-cut. We're going to push him all the way down. Now all we're going to do is take our parafilm tape, take off a piece that we want, and we're going to wrap that, stretching that tape around there. Now what we don't want to do, I don't like covering that bud up. So we're going to go over the top. We're going to leave it just above that bud, like that. And all the way up to that T, stretch that tape, stretch it, and it kind of sticks to itself when you do that. Now we have our T bud, and we got our bud right back here. It's got a brown tint to it, and that's going to start our new tree. This will grow faster than this Wealthy that I did a cleft graft onto, and we got a little bit of started here. This will take off now and surpass that. And then next year, after this season, I will cut this off right here, just above this bud, and my new tree will grow from there.